Welcome to Highly Sensitive, Happily Married, the podcast that teaches you to not only have an easier marriage as a sensitive woman, but to have one that feels more amazing by the day. Where you'll hear relatable stories, love advice that works, and coaching on how to have a marriage where feeling upset and disconnected is a thing of the past, and where instead a sense of loving connection and even fun and lightness is the norm. I'm Hannah Brooks, highly sensitive person, love expert, and marriage coach, and I'm so happy to be on this journey with you. Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 146. Today we are going to talk about the 1/3 rule of emotion, which might sound kind of mysterious, but you'll understand it in a moment. But first, I just want to briefly let you know of an exciting development, which is that my team and I just released a new on-demand course called Bring Back the Attraction. And in it, I give you 7 keys, research-backed keys, to sparking more of that attraction, sparking more of that magical appeal you used to feel early on in your relationship. Because let's face it, a lot of times, most times in our marriages, our long-term committed relationships, the attraction tends to fade. But that's only because we're not giving it purposeful, intentional attention. That's what will keep it alive. And most of us don't really understand sort of the mechanics of that. So this is a 45-minute course. It comes with a pretty thorough workbook and course book. So you can really dive in and figure out what works for you. To really bring alive the attraction you want to feel between you and your spouse. And the best part is it's only $17. So head over to www.lifeisworthloving.com/bring back the attraction, or you can find the direct link in the show notes, or just go over to my website and look at the courses and events tab. So today I just wanted to bring you a very short episode to really bring you a sense of easing of your mind. This is just a little drop of an episode to help you lean away from all the unnecessary worry and doubt that might be coming up for you around your relationship, and to help you relieve you from all of the questioning that you might be having, and help you lean into improving what's realistic to improve. So one thing I've seen again and again in my work with highly sensitive women in their relationships is the feeling of something being wrong with the relationship when things aren't always really good, when there are struggles or conflict or times of disconnection. Clients often tell me in the beginning of our time together things like, I've been so annoyed with him a lot lately, or we just haven't been connecting much. And then they follow it up oftentimes with the sentence, maybe I made a mistake by marrying him, or maybe they aren't meant for me. In other words, they make this experience of feeling less than pleasant emotions with their partner all the time mean that the relationship is just doomed, or that they aren't with the right person, or that they themselves aren't good at relationships, or really any number of awful things. And really, when we worry or catastrophize like this because we're having harder emotions around our relationship, it's because we're believing there's something wrong that we're having these harder emotions. That having these harder emotions means something's terribly wrong, or that everything might fall apart. And the worst part about this is that believing that something's wrong with your relationship can tragically lead you to conclude that the relationship has failed and should be ended, even though it's actually pretty healthy and promising. So I certainly have made the same jump of reason in the past. Multiple times in my 20s, I ended relationships full of potential because bad feelings were arising more often than I thought they should. And I thought it meant that something was wrong with him or with us. And I think this is very common with us sensitive people, right? Because like when we're really attuned to what we feel, it's easy to take those feelings really seriously, right? Like when I feel bad, I feel really bad. And when things feel kind of blah, I feel that deeply too. And I bet that's similar for you. So this is pretty easy to fall into as HSPs, really to fall prey to. This idea that, oh, I'm feeling bad, it must mean something is really wrong, it must mean we should end the relationship. But what's so interesting is when my clients and I kind of slow down and look at this a little deeper together, we often find that what's happening is they're comparing their relationship to some arbitrary standard of what a good relationship should look like. One that isn't realistic, or at least one that isn't normal. And notice I said the word arbitrary. We do have this tendency to compare our relationships to something that we haven't even necessarily really seen. Or something we think we've seen, like that couple who you think is just so happy together all the time, but you actually don't know what's really going on inside both of them or behind closed doors. And, we get these ideas from all over the place. We probably get glimpses of nearly perfect relationships on Instagram or from books or movies, right? Or all sorts of places. And again, not necessarily from the real lived experience of real actual humans. But we get these glimpses and these sort of ideas, of what relationships should be. And then they cause so much unnecessary worry and pain and doubt in our own relationship. Now, it helped me put so much insecurity and doubt and worry about my relationship to rest when I heard something at a relationship workshop I attended many, many years ago at this point. So it was with this lovely, adorable old couple who was teaching the workshop. And they shared this, and it made such a difference and really put me so much more at ease when I heard this. And that's what I want for you today. So let me just be really blunt and put so much of your unnecessary worry and pain and doubt and emotion and fear to rest. Here we go. Ready? You can measure a good, healthy marriage by the 1/3 rule. And this is what it is. 1/3 of the time, your relationship will not be happy. There will be hard emotions present in yourself and in your partner. And 1/3 of the time, it will be neutral, meaning neutral emotions will be there, which can actually feel kind of like dullness, especially in our overstimulated culture. And then 1/3 of the time, quote unquote, positive emotions will be there. You will feel pleasant. You'll feel good. You will feel a variety of positive emotions, right? And this is normal, even healthy. So how does it feel to hear that? It does not need to be happy most of the time for it to be a good marriage or relationship. And when you start to accept that it's totally normal to not feel great with your partner a full 2/3 of the time, you can feel so much more peace. I know that I did. And if any of you are like, oh my God, and kind of freaking out about it, just hold your horses a minute and I've got something to share in a minute that can help with that. But I know some of you are already feeling sort of a sense of relief, like your relationship's normal. Even if 1/3 of the time you feel not good and 1/3 of the time you feel kind of blah. So I hope you're feeling that peace. Because ironically, this peace, this relief, actually frees you up to feel happier more of the time, even with your partner. To not get bothered when things aren't great. To feel peaceful that you aren't totally in harmony today. To feel at ease when you feel annoyed for the 5th time this week. Which means you're actually feeling better than if you did not have this understanding. Because when you aren't feeling great with your partner, it's kind of like, so what? That's part of life as a human in a relationship. It means nothing bad. Nothing has gone wrong. Again, it feels so much more peaceful, yeah? Now, of course, this doesn't mean we should tolerate awfulness. That's certainly not my point. Nor does it mean you shouldn't work at growing and making things even better. Of course you should, totally. But it does mean you don't have to do that work and that improving out of fear or worry that something is particularly wrong with you and your partner or your relationship. We don't generally do well when we're working from fear. Instead, you can do it from peace and a desire for things to be really good. That's a much more powerful place to create real change from. So I invite you to use this idea, this 1/3 rule, not to become complacent and think you can't improve things, because it'll always be 1/3 of the time bad and 1/3 of the time neutral and only 1/3 of the time great. No. Don't use it to become complacent. Use it to rest back into more peace. And understand that the 1/3 rule can actually be improved, like I was hinting at before. Meaning when you know how to lean deeper into the 1/3 good times, and you really soak them up and you make them richer and more sweetly connected and more laughter and joy-filled and attraction-filled, they are even better. In other words, the 1/3 positive times can be better than they are for you currently, with some intention and skill building. And when you know how to make the hard moments not so hard, when you have more peace with those hard moments and more skillfulness with those hard moments, you experience the 1/3 negative times better. Like your experience with them will be better, will be not as painful. It won't be as bad as it might be nowadays for you. So here's another way to think about it. If you remember me ever talking about the emotional scale, I have an episode where I dive into at least part of it. It's called the Love Spectrum Scale. That's episode 83. But basically, the emotional scale is a scale representing your emotions. In this case, related to your relationship. And the scale goes from -10 to +10, with 0 being neutral in the middle. So just picture that scale. So if you think about your 1/3 hard times, having the option of going from that -1 on that scale to -10, and you learn how to make those harder times that you experience in your relationship more like a -4, like in that range. Like the worst times are usually just like a -4. Imagine that, right? That's a whole different ball game than when you're hovering around the -10 to -7 realm. Yeah? Very different. The bad is bad, but not awful, right? And the same is true, of course, with the positive realm. If right now you're hovering around a positive, say 1 to 5, and how good you feel in your relationship, like at the best times, you know that you could actually make that time actually be more of a +5 to 10, a +7 to 10 as like the normal of the positive times. So that's pretty amazing to think about, yeah? And of course, neutral will usually stay neutral because it's just neutral, right? So this is why I say we don't have to tolerate things being really bad or things being as they are in your relationship. But as you start to accept them as they are, meaning that 1/3 of the time, things will be less than pleasant, 1/3 of the time they'll be more neutral, and 1/3 of the time you'll feel good, then it becomes so much easier to begin to tweak and tweak and tweak until the bad experiences in your relationship is just not so bad. And the positive times in your relationship are really exceptional. So my invitation for you is to sit with this, let this sink in and see what comes from it. And if you decide you want to take the positive and the negative and move everything up that emotional scale we just talked about so everything's better, I am here for you, and I will help you do that when we work together. Of course, you can find out more about how to do that at my website, www.lifeisworthloving.com. And I am wishing you a wonderful 1/3 experience today. Be oh so well, my friend.